Hi, welcome to Design Your Own Boat Race Game using the Scratch program. For this video game design project, you're going to be using the Scratch coding program. You could have it already downloaded to your desktop, or in the case that I'm showing you today, we'll be using the online version, which is found free at scratch.mit.edu. You'll just click on Create. And once the program is open, you can decide or ask your teacher where it is that you should be saving your program. I have already saved mine. As you can see, I just titled it Sample Scratch. You'll know if you have it saved in using the correct name by looking up in the top left-hand corner of your Scratch program, and you should see whatever name it is that you typed in there. Once you've typed in your name, make sure that you click on Save pretty often as you work throughout this program. So we will get ready to begin our boat race game. As you can see on my screen right now, it automatically loads up with this default sprite. That's what they call it in the Scratch program. It's just your character or your avatar. We're actually not going to be using the cat for our boat race game. So what we are going to do is we are going to put our arrow on top of him, and we will right click on him, and you will get the option to delete your sprite. So we will choose our option to delete, and now our working space is ready to begin drawing our game. Okay, so now we are ready to actually design our track, or the waterway in which the boat will race around. So in the very top center of the screen, you're going to see these three gray tabs. Click on the center tab that says Backdrops. When you do that, you'll notice your screen changes, and you're ready to create your boat race background. So notice by looking at your screen, you're always going to have your working space pretty much on your right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, that's going to always give you what the overall look of your canvas or your design, what it looks like. So you'll see things changing, but your working space is always over here on the right-hand side. So we are going to design our track, and we will need to select the paint can tool that's in the middle of the screen, which right here. Once I select my paint can tool, we are going to color the background, and we're going to fill in this entire stage or drawing area, and we're going to make it green to represent our land. We do want to keep it on a solid color. You're not going to choose any of the gradient options or anything down here at the bottom, otherwise that will affect your game later on. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to choose a green. Keep in mind any colors we're using as we go. Pretty much you're not going to be able to use them again in the design of your boat or any other design of items that you might place on your screen later. It will, again, we're going to be writing some code in here. That color will become one of the coding pieces. So I have my green selected. I am my paint can, and I'm just going to click in my workspace, and when I do that, it will color my entire background the green that I wanted. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the paintbrush tool up here at the top, and once I do that, you do need to adjust the width of the paintbrush before we actually begin drawing our waterway onto our background. So we'll do that by going down here to the bottom. This tells us how wide our line will be with our paintbrush. Right now it's rather thin. You can see the sliding tool right here. So we're going to slide it pretty wide down to the right-hand side. And then we are going to select a blue color, because this will be our water, our pathway for our boat on our boat race game. So I will go over here and select a blue. Again, keep in mind if this is a blue that I really, really like and I'm going to want to use it later as part of the design of my boat, then I do not want to choose it as part of my waterway. So I might select a little lighter blue here. And then I'm going to go up to my staging area, and I am going to design my track. And your track needs to be a couple different things have to happen. Is you have to have a continuous path. So think of it as your closed polygon. You have to have a starting point and an ending point. It has to be a closed figure. And you have to make sure that you do not touch the background edges. You have to have some green showing all the way around the edge. Again, this will affect our coding later. So if I start to design my racetrack, and I've already noticed a couple things I want to change, so I wanted to do this on purpose and show you that it's no big deal if you mess up. If I decide this is not what I want, I notice right now that I do actually need to make my line a little bit wider. So I want to show you this back arrow up here, and you don't want to become what I call click happy. I only want to click it one time and it will undo the last thing that I did. If you click it more than once, then it will undo 2 or 3 or however many times you clicked it. Sometimes it does take it a minute to catch up to it, so click and then wait. Give it a second to think before you click it again. So I'm going to go back down to my line width, and I'm going to make it the widest line that I possibly can, and I'm going to go back up to my staging area. Notice my width is much different. You can see my dot there. That will tell me how wide my pathway is about to be. So I'm going to again try to attempt to make my track, and it can be whatever design you want. I'm going close to the edge, but notice I am leaving some green around the edge of my background, because again, color is going to play a role in our coding later on. And you can be as creative as you want. I know it's not a lot of space to work with. It doesn't have to be a perfectly circular pattern. You just have to make sure that you connect and you have a continuous path for that boat to go along, and that you have green all the way around your edges of your screen. What I mean by that, I'm going to show you real quick, is if I happen to, down here, look at my dot, if I happen to make my track to where it touched right there and it's right on the edge and you can't see green, then I'm going to actually click on undo and I'm going to take that away, because you have to have this green marking, your background showing all the way around the edge. Very, very, very important. So you can pause the video now if you are still working on your track and you're trying to get it exactly how you want it. You can pause now before continuing on to the next step. Otherwise, if your track is finished and you're ready to roll, make sure you click on that File Save button, and then you may continue from here. Okay, so now that we have our track ready to go, we're going to add some details to our track to start designing the game piece. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a finish line. And in order to do that, we want to use the line tool, which is underneath our paintbrush tool. So you're going to select your line tool right here. I'm going to go over and click on it. And when I do that, remember we had our line pretty wide down here, so we want to make it thin. You don't want it on the thinnest setting. You want to be able to see the line. But you obviously don't want it on the widest setting either. We're going to use black for our finish line, so I've selected my line width. Now I'm going to go over here and select my color, because right now I'm still on the blue. So I'll click on my black, and I know it's changed because my line width guide as well as my square here is showing me that I've changed my color. Then you're going to go up to your track and you're going to decide wherever it is that you want to place your finish line. I will tell you that once we design our boat, usually the boat takes off in this direction. It'll go from the left-hand side to the right. So you can keep that in mind. We also want to make sure when we draw our line that it goes from one side of our waterway to the other side. You don't want to leave a gap in that color. It's okay if you extend it a little bit into your background, but you want to make sure that it definitely goes all the way across your blue part of your track. So I am going to put my finish line up here sort of in the middle. So I'm going to click and hold down, and I'm going to go all the way across to the other side, making sure that I have crossed from blue to blue, and I have, it's okay again if you go a little bit into the green. You just want to make sure there's no gap in the blue section of your waterway. So now that we've drawn our finish line, we are also going to add in some power bursts for our game. So that way when our boat passes over these dots, it will give it a burst of speed along the track of our game. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and go back to our paintbrush tool. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to decide on another color. But again, you need to make sure that if it is a color, it's got to show up on the blue, Black does a good job, but I've already used that for my finish line, so I do not want to use the same color. But I need to go pick out a different color that I don't want to use on my boat, that I haven't used on my background or my waterway, and it will show up on my water path. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and I am going to choose, I think I'll just choose a dark, maybe a dark purple. So then what I'm going to do is you're just going to randomly place the dots along your waterway. You know, 8 to 10 dots is plenty. You don't want it loaded, but you also want to make sure that you have enough on there that it makes the game interesting and fun. So I'm just literally going to go along my path. I just have to click one time with my mouse and then move on. You don't have to draw with it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there I have my power bursts placed randomly along my waterway. Okay. Once you have your finish line and your power burst, make sure you save so we have it on there. If you need to correct anything or fix anything, remember you can always use that back or that undo arrow, which will undo the last thing that you did. So again, I'll show it to you. If I click one time, it's going to take that last power burst away, which I want that one, so I'm going to go put it back. So again, hit save. If you're ready to proceed, you just let the video continue playing on. If you need to still finish or change something about your finish line or your power burst, then that would be a good time to pause. Okay, now comes the fun part of actually drawing our boat, which will become our, sprite or character that we'll be using to race along our track. So remember we talked about the screen and how this is our working space on the right, and this is sort of our whole overview here on the left. So we're going to move over to this left-hand side for a second, and down here underneath our canvas, you will see that we have some icons and some buttons here. And we're looking for the one that says New Sprite, and there's 4 icons right next to it here. We're going to click on this tiny paintbrush icon that is next to the little troll looking sprite guy character. And when I do that, the drawing area on my right, you'll see changes. That's okay. We haven't gotten rid of our track. We are just now up here changing into our different costumes or our different characters. So you'll notice that the screen changed and it sort of looks like a small checkerboard area. And this is where we're going to actually create or draw our boat that we're going to use to race around our track. So what we need to do is we're going to magnify the screen, because obviously our boat has to be small enough to race on this track that we have over here. So we're going to go down here to this magnifying glass, and we have a plus and a minus. So obviously the plus will make it bigger. And we're going to click on that. Right now it's at 100%. We want to click on it until it says 800%. So once you have clicked on your magnifying glass and you see 800% down here on the bottom, that's where we want it to be. So you should see the plus sign in the middle, and you should see the checkerboard pretty easily now. So this will make drawing our boat a lot easier. It'll look like we're drawing in a big area, although our boat will be created, small enough to fit onto our track over here on the left. So we're going to use that plus sign because that's going to help keep our drawing centered throughout the creation of it. Now, I'm sure you guys are way more creative than I am, but basically you can use any of these drawing tools that you wish to help you create your boat. There's a couple different ways you can do it. My way is certainly not the only way. So this is a time when your creativity can come into play and you can make it, as cool as you want. The only thing you need to remember is you cannot use the blue from your waterway as part of the color of your boat, and you cannot use the green or the black or your power burst color. So you got to keep in mind those colors that we already use, we cannot use over here in the design of my boat. So I'm going to quickly do a design. Again, I am not an artist, but I will try. So I'm going to show you one option, and I'm going to use the circle here. I obviously have to change my color because that is the color that I had already used to create my power bursts. So I might go over here and choose, let's choose a blue. No, I'm going to go with a purple pink color. And here you have 2 options. I can do a solid circle or I can do the outline circle. I'm going to choose the solid circle. And I'm again using that plus sign as the center of my boat. And you're going to see why that's important in just a second. So I'm going to choose to start drawing my circle, and I'm going to actually use this as the base of my boat. And I'm just going to sort of draw it big enough to color my plus sign. Okay, so you can kind of look over here and see, okay, well, that's roughly the size of my boat. Is it big enough? Is it too big? Is it small? And you can go from there. So I actually think my boat is a little bit too small. I want it bigger than that for my screen. So what I'm going to do is I can simply go over here and undo what I did and draw a bigger circle over that plus sign. I still have everything selected the same. So I can make it a little bit larger and then decide over here if I like it or if I still want it bigger, or how I want it to go from there. So it's totally up to you on how you design your boat. The other option, the reason I was doing it this way is I was just going to cut the top off, but you also have the option to just basically freehand draw it yourself. It's sometimes not as easy to do because it's not always, oops, my line is way too big. It's not always easy to freehand exactly how you would want it to look. And I do not want the line tool, I want the paintbrush. So if I were to try and draw it myself, you'll notice you get more of that pixelated look with your design. But it's just another option. So I might do something that simple and then I could fill in the middle. So really totally how you design your boat is up to you. That's just to give you a couple of ideas. I'm going to go back to my ellipse and I am just going to actually make it bigger than what I initially had, and I'm going to go with it from there. And then I can take my line tool and I am going to sort of color in the top here. Actually, I'm going to take my eraser and I am going to chop off or erase. It's not that easy to do, but I am going to take away the top half of my circle, so I have more of a boat looking design here, and then I will get my paintbrush. Okay, the reason I got my paintbrush is so I can add a sail to my boat here. So I'm just going to select another color, again one that I have not yet used, and I can adjust and make my line thinner, thicker, however you want. Actually, I think I'm going to use my line tool so I can make it really straight. And I am just going to start at the bottom of my boat, and I'm going to go up, and then I am going to make a little triangular shape so it looks like a sailboat. Again, this is where you can be as creative as you want. And then I'm going to go back and get my paint bucket, and I'm actually going to fill my sail in again with another color that I haven't used, and click in the middle and it will fill in that line area. Again, if you click on the background, it's going to fill in the whole background, so be careful about that. But again, you always have that nice little undo option. And you can make this as creative as you want. You can design it however you want. You can add whatever you think you want to add to your boat to make it your own thing. You know, try to add a stripe here. Again, the freehand tool is a little bit more challenging. Maybe I'll put some dots along it. So this is where you can add in your own little artistic style. Depending on your time, you want to be mindful of that, because we could get lost in a lot of time here and spend a lot of time trying to make this better and better and more different. So basically get your boat designed over here in your working space as much as you want it done. So I'm pretty happy with this. Maybe I will choose a blue that I haven't used yet and, you know, add some stripes to my sail here. And then I'm basically going to be happy with my boat, and I am going to move on to the next step. So if you are still designing your boat, then this is a great place for you to pause. Once you have your boat designed however you are happy with it, then make sure you again choose save. And we are going to zoom back out once you're done with your boat. This is a good place to pause, finish it, and then you can resume the video once you are ready. So now that your boat is finished, we're going to zoom back and make this back to 100%. Again, notice that's the actual size of our boat. And we are ready to begin some programming. So in the very center of your screen, again where we were at the beginning, you're going to find those gray tabs. I want you to click on the one that says Scripts. So when I do that, you're going to see sort of all these pieces or these commands appear in the middle of your screen. Notice again, things are not gone. This is our overall look over here on the left-hand side. There's my background and there's my sprite, or our boat in this case for our game. So all of the commands are sorted here in the middle by the type of command that they are. So you have motion, look, sounds, and so forth as you go. And they are all color-coded as well, so you'll know if and when you're in the right spot. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to look for the word that says Events. It's in the right-hand side, the top column. And when I click on that, notice that the pieces of my commands or my codes here in the middle are going to switch colors. We have several command block choices. We are looking for the command that says when green flag is clicked, which is this top one, and you're just going to drag and drop. So I'm going to put my arrow on it, I'm going to click, I'm going to hold in my mouse, I'm going to drag it over here to my workspace. It really doesn't matter where it is. This is just your working space. Think of it sort of like a clipboard. I like to kind of keep mine somewhat organized because as we add more command, our workspace is going to get more and more crowded. But again, it doesn't really matter where it is. So we have put that in our programming area, and now we are going to go back over to our scripts, and we are looking for the command that says looks. It's on the left hand side. I'm going to click on that. Again, my pieces are going to change here in the center. We are looking for the command that says switch costume to costume 1. You know, as I go down, it's this first long piece here. It says switch costume to costume 1. And I am going to drag and drop that over here in my working space. Now, this is when it's really important. These two pieces of command are in my working space, but right now they are not working together because they're not connected. So you're going to notice that as we do certain commands, we want them to function together. So I'm going to drag this command and I'm going to drag it near the events command that we already put over in our working space. So as I get closer, they're sort of like magnets. Notice that we have that white highlighting line that appears as I got closer to the piece. They're like magnets and they're attracted to each other and they'll snap together like puzzle pieces. So I want my switch costume to costume 1 to be attached to my when green flag is clicked. So as soon as I get it near, I can let go and they will click and they will snap together. And the computer knows that these two pieces of command go together. So it's sort of like writing a sentence. We're going to complete our thought. So right now we're saying when the green flag is clicked, we want to switch our costume, the costume on our sprite, to costume 1. So then we're going to look on the left side of the screen and we're going to click on our sprite, which is our boat, and we're going to move it in place over here where we want our boat to start the race. So all I have to do is click on it and drag, and I can move it wherever I want on my game. I am going to move it to the right of my finish line. Again, really important, no part of your boat can be touching your black line at all. So you want to make sure you slide it over enough to where there's blue space between your boat and your finish line. If you have your flag or part of the design of your boat sticks out really far and only that little piece is touching it, it's going to affect your code. So make sure no part of that boat is touching your black line. So I can put it wherever I want. This is going to be basically where my boat will begin every time we play the boat race game. So now I'm going to click on the section of commands that once I have my boat in place on my racetrack over here, I'm going to go back to my commands and I'm going to look for the commands titled motion right here at the top. I'm going to click on that. Again, my command pieces will change, and I am going to select the piece that says go to X blank Y, and you're going to have to just scroll down. Right here I have go to X and then there's a circle and Y. It's an XY coordinate, and I am going to attach that to the bottom of the commands that we already started. So again, I want to get it close enough, it's going to snap into place. Now here's where things are going to be a little bit different on your screen than my screen, but basically we moved our boat to the start line that I wanted it on. And when I did that, my command over here on the side switched. notice we have this little like ghost figure of your boat over here in the top right hand corner. In that figure, you will see an XY coordinate that should match whatever is in your command piece that you just brought out. And basically, it's just giving it the coordinate on your screen where your boat is supposed to go at the very beginning of the game. And so as long as those match, you are good. Then we also want to make sure that our boat faces the correct direction. So we're going to also add the command. We're still in motion. That's where you want to stay. And we're going to look down, and we are looking for the piece of code that says point in direction 90. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag, and I am going to attach this piece of command to the rest of our commands over in our working space. So we have just written our first piece of code, and we basically have said when we click this green flag, we want our boat to go back to the start line. Here's where we want it to be. We want it to face the right direction, and we want it to be in its costume, which is the design that you just did now. So we can test that, and I can slide my boat somewhere else on the screen. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click this green flag, and if I did everything correctly, it should go to my start line. So when I click my green flag, notice the boat hopped up to where I wanted it to go. It's facing the right direction and it's ready to begin the game. So now we've written our first block of code, and we need to save our project where we are. So make sure you do your file save. Again, I'm on the online version. So just save it wherever you are. Okay, so now we are ready to program our next step, and we are going to give it the second block of code. So again, we are going to go back to our scripts here, and we have to go back to events. Basically, any new command you're writing, you're going to always begin with an event. That's a new command, a new event, a new happening. So we're going to make it to where, again, we want that top one. When the green flag is clicked, we are going to tell it to do something else. So I'm going to drag that out, place it in a new spot, and then we're going to go over here to our center again, and we're going to click on the word control. So under our control commands, sort of another orangish color, notice these are like brackets, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to it in a second. We want to find the loop that says forever. So it's the third one down, and it's just a forever loop, and we're going to drag that out and connect it to the first block that we just dragged out. And then we're going to go back and get another piece of command. This time we want to go to motion. When I click on motion, they change. And we want to get the top one. It says move 10 steps. All right. So we're going to drag that out. And we're actually going to change the number. And so just drag it to a blank space on your working area, and click in that white box to where you highlight the 10, and you want to get rid of the 10 and you want to change it to the number 2. So 10 is just a little bit too big of steps for it to take. Our boat will be off the screen. So once you have changed that to the 2, then you need to drag it out, and we're going to not just connect it to the bottom. Notice there's nowhere to connect it to. We want it to actually go inside of our forever loop. Sort of think of it like Pac-Man, and he's going to eat it. So notice when I get it close, again, that white highlighting bar will pop up, and it will snap inside of our forever bracket. So we're telling it that not only when we click the green flag do we want it to go to our start position and be in the right boat costume, we also want it to start moving in 2 steps at a time forever. We're telling it to keep going forever. So we're going to go ahead and try it out. It's not going to quite work the way you want it right now, but we want you to see what you've done so far. So I'm going to drag my boat somewhere where it shouldn't be. That's not my starting position. And I'm going to click the green flag, and I want you to watch what happens. So when I click my green flag, it goes to the start, and it's going to move. Now I can't control it, and it's going to eventually move pretty much off my screen. I can keep clicking my green flag, and it's just going to keep doing the same thing. You can also use your stop sign to stop it. So right now, we haven't programmed anything telling it directions or anything like that. We've just said when we click our green flag, we want it to go to this position, and we want it to start moving. So we have got to do the rest. So we want to be able to control the steering of our boat. Okay, so in order to do the steering of our boat, we need to tell it to do something when we use our right and our left. So we are, again, going to go back to our events, And this time I'm going to get the second piece of command down that says when space key is pressed. And I want you to go ahead and drag 2 of those out into your working space. Notice we have a little black triangle next to the word space. Whenever you see that, then you know you can click on it and you have different options to select. So when I click on it, I will have a list that pops up, and we want to choose left arrow on one and right arrow on the other. So when we use our left arrow, it will do something, and when we use our right arrow, it will do something. So obviously, if we're using right and left, we want it to be able to turn. So let's go back over here to our scripts, and we're going to go to motion. And this time, if you look underneath the move 10 steps, you've got one that says turn right 15 degrees and turn left 15 degrees. You have to look at your arrows and match them up correctly. So this arrow is pointing to my right, so I want to take this one out and put it underneath my piece of command that says right. And this one points to the left, so I want to take it out and put it underneath my piece of command that says left. If you've ever played a game where it's the opposite way, then you know that this is the step that they did wrong and they put the wrong piece of command. They used the right and the left and they mixed them up. So make sure, looking at your pieces of command here, that the word right matches the arrow going to the right and the word left matches the arrow going to your left. So now if you use your keyboard, look for your arrow keys, you can try it out. So this time I'm going to click my green flag, and when I click it, it's going to go to its starting position. I'm going to start moving, but this time I should be able to use my right and left arrow. So I'm going to click on my green flag and try it out. So notice I can now have some control over my boat and try to get it all the way around the racetrack. Alright, so try it out. This is also a good place for you to stop and save and take a break. So if you like to split this day in two, this is a good stopping point for your day. Or you can, of course, continue on and go into the next stage of creating our boat race game. Okay, welcome back if you took a break. If not, I'm glad you're continuing. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to draw a crashed boat. So if our boat happens to go off of the waterway, it's going to actually crash. So in the center of your screen, you're going to look for those gray tabs again, and I want you to click on the one that says costumes. When I do that, my screen of course changes, and I can see the first version of the boat that I created. And notice we also have it over here on the left hand side of our screen. I want you to put your mouse over the small picture of your boat in the center of the screen that says costume 1. So if you can see it right here in the very center of your screen. And when I do that, we're going to use our right click. The right click on your mouse, and when I click on that, you're going to have these options that pop up on your screen. We want to choose the first one that says duplicate, which means we're going to make another one just like it. So when I click on that, notice now I have two. One that says costume 1 and one that says costume 2. You want to make sure, and it will automatically do it, but notice when I click between the two, I have the blue highlighting around whichever one I'm working with. They look exactly the same right now, so you don't see any other changes that happen. So make sure that this blue highlighted box is around the one that says costume 2. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually just kind of crash our boat up and make sure that it looks like it's been destroyed. You don't want to do any changes to costume 1. That's our nice boat. We only want to make these changes to costume 2. So I'm in costume 2. You can zoom in again if that helps. And then we are going to just basically crash up our boat. So I can just draw some squiggles through it, some flames. Again, I'm sure you're way more creative than I am. So I'm going to use, that's why I wasn't using my red color earlier. So I've got my red here, and I am just going to mess up my boat. It's going to look like it's on fire. Whatever it is I want to do, it is all crashed up. And this part probably won't take you that long because it just looks like a messed up boat. And I'm okay with that. So make sure you don't do any changes to your costume 1. Look over here at my costume 2. You can see now that they are distinctly different. So if I click on costume 1, there's my nice boat. Costume 2, there's my crashed boat. Go ahead and save where you are right now, making sure we save it as we go. So now that we've designed our crashed boat, we want to make sure that we also do some coding in our game so it knows when to change to our crashed boat. So again, we're going to go back up to these gray tabs, and I want you to click on the one that says scripts, and we're back to where we were creating and writing our code earlier. So this time we're going to go to the control scripts, and I want you to select the one that is the top one. It says wait 1 second, and we're going to drag that out right now. So we're going to place this in a really tricky spot, and what you need to do is you're going to look over at your code that we did with the forever loop, and I want you to take this piece of code that we just got, the wait 1 second, and you're going to place it between the when the green flag is clicked and the forever loop. You do not want it to go inside the forever loop. We want it in between the when the green flag is clicked and the top of our forever loop. So I'm going to just kind of hover and wait till that highlighting goes where I think I want it, and then I'll let go and drop it. So again, make sure it's not inside this loop. It's right in between the two pieces of command. So it should say when green flag is clicked, wait 1 second, and then it goes into our forever moving loop. Okay. Then we are going to want to go back to our control section, which we're still in, and find the if-then loop. It's right here. It's the fourth one down, and it just says if, and it has a hexagon shape in there, then. So we're going to grab that loop, and we're just going to put it into the programming section by itself for now. We're going to be adding it to something, to one of our already created pieces, but right now this is where we're going to work with it. So we're saying if this happens, if something happens, then this. So we're going to go back over here to our scripts, and we're going to go to the one that says sensing. When you click on the sensing, you're going to get these blue pieces of command that appear. And we want to find the one that says touching color. So it's the second one down. It says touching color. And we're going to drop this command into the space that's between the words if and then. So notice that this piece of command is sort of that funky hexagon shape. It's not like these that look like puzzle pieces. And notice this little space in between our two words of if and then is a very similar shape, just a different size. So we are going to drag, and I'm going to go up to that space, to that shape. And notice again, if you get it just right, you'll see the white highlighting appear around that actual shape. So once I see that white highlighting appear, then I'm going to let go. It will drop it into that shape. It will go ahead and change the size or the piece of command that we already have there to fit that particular shape. We don't want it in the loop. We want it in that shape piece. Once that piece is in there, I want you to click on that small colored square that's inside of the command. And when I click on that once, notice that my arrow changed. So I'm going to do that again. Right now I'm an arrow, and when I'm inside of that, I'm still an arrow. But when I click, it changes to that little pointing hand. So once I have that pointing hand, then we can go click on something else because we're wanting to choose a specific color. So I'm going to take my pointing hand, and I'm going to go back over to the background of my game over here on the left, and I am going to click somewhere on the green background. Notice if I'm in the blue over here on the right, it's going to change what's in that little square. So it doesn't matter where, it doesn't have to be in a specific spot, but somewhere on part of your background color, I'm just going to click. When I do that, my hand is now gone. I'm back to the arrow, but my color in here has stayed the same as my background color, which is the green. So we want to keep it that background color. Once you have your background color in there, we are going to now tell it to do something. Okay, so now we want to tell our if-then loop to actually do something. So we're going to go back to the looks section over here in our scripts, and we're looking for the piece of command that says switch costume to costume 2, and I'm going to drag that out. And again, we're working down here in our if-then bracket, and I'm going to insert the command inside of the if-then bracket. So in the bracket. Then you're going to pick up this entire piece of command, and we want to drag it up here inside of our forever loop. So we want it to be under the block that says move 2 steps, but in the forever loop. So I'm just going to, I don't want to click on the blue or the purple piece. I want to kind of just click on this entire bracket, and notice I can now drag it wherever I want. And I am going to take it up here and drop it. Again, I'm looking for that white highlighting to change where I want it to be. and I'm going to drop it in there to where it's inside of this forever bracket, but it's underneath the move 2 steps. I want to show you how easy it is if you accidentally drop it in the wrong spot. Not a big deal. I can grab it, I can drag it out, I can take apart what I need to, just like Lego pieces, and then I'm right back to where I was, and then drop it in the correct spot. So it should be in the forever bracket, but underneath the piece of command that says move 2 steps. All right. The other thing, so we're telling it that when the green flag is clicked, if it happens to touch our background color, then we want it to switch to our crashed boat costume. We also want it to stop. So we're going to go back to our control pieces here in the middle, our scripts. And when I click on that, we're going to look for the piece of command, it's down here near the bottom, that says stop all. All right. I'm going to drag that piece of command out. Now I have my little block out here, and we want to place this underneath where it says switch costume to costume 2 command inside of our if then loop. So our boat's going to change to the crash boat and stop when it touches that color. So I'm going to put it inside of our if then loop underneath our purple piece of switch costume to costume 2. All right, so once you have all of your pieces in your command here, let's try it out. I'm going to hit my green flag and it's going to start moving. Notice it switched to my crash costume. See my little sail up here hit that green background, so I'm going to have to know to move my boat pretty quick or it's going to crash. So it not only crashed into my crash boat costume, it stopped. So I can try it again. Let's go back to the beginning. It's going to start moving. Oh, crash and stop. Okay, so you'll know that it worked. Try it out if you haven't done that already. And make sure, of course, you hit save. Okay, so now that we have given our boat some animation by letting it change to a crash if it touches our background color, remember that we also added those power-ups or those dots along our waterway here. So we want to make sure that those have an impact in our game now. So we're going to go back to our control section, which we're in, and I want you to choose another if-then loop, another if-then bracket just like we used before right here. So I'm going to click and drag that out to my coding area. And then we're going to go to the sensing section underneath our control scripts, and we are looking for the piece that says choose the touching color. So it's the second one down again, and I want you to place it again in that shape on your bracket just like we did before. We're looking to drop it into that hexagon shape on our bracket. All right, don't place it inside the loop, make sure it goes inside of that shape. Then we're going to click on the color box in the command again and get it to change to that pointing hand so we can go over here to our track. If I click anywhere between changing to the pointing hand and here, it's going to switch back to my arrow. Okay, so if you happen to switch back to your arrow, just go back to your color block, click on it once so you get the pointing finger. This time it's going to be a little bit trickier because you need it to click exactly on one of your power boost colors. Okay, so notice again as I'm moving around, if I look over here, while I'm moving my hand over here, it is changing the color that you see in that box over on the right hand side. So move it just enough to where you see it change to that power up color that you have chosen. So notice I just went really slow, moved in. Oh, there I see over on the right hand side here in my code. I'm watching for that color to change. And when it does, I'm going to stay right there. And then I'm going to carefully click. Now it changed back to my arrow, but it's keeping my color inside of that box under my if-then bracket. Okay, so once you have your power up color saved here inside of your square, then you're good. Okay, then we're going to go to the motion section over here in our scripts. Click on motion, and you're going to get the top piece of command that says move 10 steps, and we're going to drag that out and we're going to place it inside of our if-then loop that we just changed our power up color to. So I want it to go inside of the bracket. I want it to snap right in there. And we're going to change the number of steps inside of this command as well. So I'm going to click in there again. We want to get rid of the 10, and we want to change it to 4. So we were going to want it to jump 4 steps in our game whenever it touches one of our power-ups. Now we need to drag this entire block of code inside of our forever loop up here. So I am going to actually do some rearranging, and you can do the same. I'm just going to move my command over here. Didn't connect anything. But I need to take this entire if-then loop that we just created for our power-ups, and we need to put it underneath the other if-then loop over here in our piece of script. Okay, so it's going to go inside of our forever loop, but not inside of this other if-then. So I want it. I'm going to go here at the bottom. Look for that white highlighting. I want it to go right up there, and it's going to drop. So it's inside of my forever loop here. But I have this if-then, and I have this if-then. They're not inside of one another. Okay? So once you have that, then we're now telling it when the green flag is clicked. We want it to give it just 1 second. Then it's going to start moving. We know that we can control the left and the right because there's our script for that. We've also now told it if it hits our background color, then we want it to change into our crashed boat and stop. We also, so we've got lots of things going on at one time, have now told it that if it touches our power burst color, that it's going to jump ahead 4 steps. So I want you to try it out. First hit save. Then we're going to go over here and I'm going to click on my green arrow in just a second. And I'm also going to use my left and my right arrow keys on my keyboard and see if I can actually play the game. Okay, so I'm going to click. And I know that I hit a power burst. Oh, I hit the background and it crashed. When you hit a power burst, it's really going to push your boat ahead really quick. So try it a few times. See what you can get your boat to do. See if you can make it all the way around. It's kind of entertaining. And see if you can go all the way around the waterway that you created. Notice when I pass over, it gives me a little shot of energy here. Whoa. And yay, we crossed the finish line. Oh, but my boat keeps going. Okay. So we've got a pretty good game going so far. Again, make sure you've hit save if you haven't done so already. So that was pretty cool. We can crash our boat, we can do the power-ups, and we can control our boat as it races around our waterway. Now, we wanted to do something as it crosses the finish line. So let's go back to our scripts. We're going to go where it says control. And when I click on control, we're going to choose another if-then loop. 4th one down again. I'm sure you're an expert by now. And we're going to go to where it says sensing. And we're going to get the same one that we got before, touching color, the 2nd one down. Again, you want to drop it into that hexagon shape of your bracket. And we are going to then click in that color box. And we want to match the colors to our finish line. So I'm going to click in the box, get my little pointing hand. Then I'm going to go over to my racetrack. And again, I want to hover over my finish line color and click. Now this color matches what's in my finish line. All right. So this time we're going to make it be just a little bit more exciting. And we're going to go over here to our scripts and click on looks. And the top one that says say hello for 2 seconds, we're going to drag that piece of script out and we're going to drop it into the if-then bracket that we just did for our finish line. So we have when we're touching the finish line color, say hello for 2 seconds. And we are going to click in the box where it says say hello. And you can change it to basically whatever you want. We're going to change it to winner, winner, because that means we crossed the finish line and we won. Okay. Now we want to drag this if-then box into our code over here at the top. So we want it again to be in the forever loop, but not inside the other if-thens. So I'm going to drag the whole thing. I'm just going to go up to where my white highlighting goes right into that first space, and I'm going to let go. So now when I cross the finish line, it should say winner, winner. All right, so let's try it. I click on my green flag, see if I can make it all the way around again. Sometimes those power boosts can mess you up. But as you go around your track, again, if you happen to touch any of your background color, it's going to crash. When you touch the power boost, it's going to give you that little burst of energy. Make this corner here. And now it says winner, winner. And it's only going to say it for 2 seconds, and then it is going to eventually go away. But now you have created your own little video game. So congratulations, job well done. And of course you can modify and go back and add, and the more you do this, the more you're going to think of other things that you can put into your boat racing game. But excellent work. Share it with someone, see if they can win your game the very first time that they do it. So again, make sure that you save and you forever have your boat racing game.